All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Pixologic stream. My name is Ian, aka IR Sculpts, as some of you might know me. And I like to, but I make sculpts for 3D printing, toy, just fun stuff in general. So, yeah, just good stuff. So, I have feedback. See feedback on my phone. Don't mind me. Anyway, how you guys doing? So, I sculpt with 3D printing in mind. What does that mean? That just means that every time I make something that I'm going to be doing for 3D printing, I keep the process of it in mind, whether it be for 3D print manufacturing or just toys in general. So hopefully you guys enjoy this process. Today is actually going to be quite unique, but first, before we get into it, I'm going to go ahead and say please hit that subscribe button, the follow button if you're watching this, especially after the stream, because so many artists go live all the time here, and it's just part of the process. So go ahead and click that so you're notified, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Comment down below if you do have questions, because all of that is super helpful, not only to get your questions answered, but also it lets us over at Pixologic know what you guys want to see and such. So today's kind of an interesting process because I'm sure a lot of you know or you have this feeling that you sculpt something and you absolutely you don't like it or you don't know what to do with it. And I've been working on this piece now for a little bit and I love it and I don't like it. So today is all about change. So I'm actually going to be changing this up quite a bit. I'm going to go with a more traditional Cthulhu statue pose, so I have something in mind. Yes. Thank you, Carde. It is my birthday. Yes. Hello. Hello from Argentina. How are you doing? Welcome in, welcome in. So anyway, again, my name is Ian, aka Iris Sculpts. I teach ZBrush. I also make things for 3D printing, toys, statues, etc. So thank you. All right. So like I was saying earlier, so I was playing with this statue for a while now, and I ultimately just don't like the pose. I think the pose is pretty lacking, and so while I like the design and I had other things with it, I'm actually going to be changing it up. Now it looks like I loaded the wrong one, so let me open this up and let's get the right one going. How is everybody doing? How is your Sunday happening? There we go. All right, yeah, this is the right one. We did a bunch of texturing and stuff, but now we're going to be changing it. And it's okay to change. I definitely want to say that it is okay to not only change your mind, but in general, if there's something about it you don't like, don't be afraid to experiment. It's definitely going to be super helpful. So get in there, have fun. Love the keyboard layout screen put up. Very helpful. Yes, thank you. I'm glad you guys like that. I love it because anytime I do something, it just helps kind of keep that refresh and you guys can know what I'm doing, especially if you're trying to follow along afterwards. So, okay. So let's go ahead and start off some things going on. I'm actually going to duplicate this body. Let's solo everything. And I want to pose him. He's dynameshed right now. So I'm actually going to pose him by Z-remeshing him. And let's actually kind of polygroup him up, which would be good. What is up, Snickles? Hello. Pause Zelda to watch this. Awesome. What version of Zelda were you playing? Because, yeah, that's dedication for sure. All right. So what I'm going to be doing actually right now is I'm going to be making different polygroups so that I can Z-remesh and have some sort of control. And then we're going to figure out a good pose to hit them up with that we can then turn around and 3D print this with ease. So we can single the polygroup out. We're going to change it by hitting Control W. I'm going to take the mask lasso, and I'm actually going to be just making little selections like such here to go ahead and... So we're going to hit Control Alt to actually sharpen that up a little bit. And I'm going to be using the mask pen as well to kind of clean up that selection. All right, so we have that one there. Now if we go ahead and just hit Control W, boom, we have a new polygroup, which is perfect. I'm also going to do that with the hand as well. So, like I was saying, I was taking a look at this for a while, And I realized I just don't love the pose. So like, I'm not going to be afraid to change that up a little bit. All right, so we'll go ahead and just kind of select there. Alt and Control and tap rapidly so that you can actually sharpen that mask, and Control W, which will give us a new selection. I played them all, so nostalgic throwback to A Link to a Past for this lazy Sunday. Oh my gosh, that is that is my favorite Zelda, hands down. Like that's the one I played so much. Okay, let's go ahead and Control Shift tap to get this selection here. I have a crazy story with that game, which is like, it was like, I wouldn't say it was my least favorite game, but I was enjoying it as a kid a lot. And then back for the Super Nintendo genre, you used to have to like kind of hit the reset and then turn the power off so that you can like actually shut the game down properly. And my dad had like the perfect game. He had everything in that. And I accidentally I just got done with the game, so I hit the power button. And at the end of that, which was funny, it wiped only his version, which was like, he was very angry. But long story short, he was like, it was like on a Friday night. So Saturday morning, he was just like, my whole game's wiped. You're the last person to play it. You have to play it until you get it all back. So I had to get it all back, and I played an entire weekend, which doesn't seem like a bad thing, right? Until you realize that I had to perfect this game, and I didn't even perfect my account. So I had to like bring his game back. It was so crazy. So, but ended up being my favorite game of all time, and I love it. Breath of the Wild is great, but I say something very amazing about Link to a Past. So that is how I love it. Haha, yes, nice. All right, so I'm just making these selections so that we can get something a little bit different. Sometimes when you Control W, it gives you a selection or a color choice of your polygroup that's like almost identical, like you can't tell the difference. If that happens, just Control Z and then just go ahead and Control W again until you get something that you like. And that's a lot better. So I'm going to go ahead and hide that selection. Okay. Now we have kind of a funky situation going on here where when I Dynamesh this, the tentacles actually got connected. So we need to either make up our mind on like unconnecting that or leaving it as such. I think I'm going to disconnect it. So let's go ahead and disconnect this. Let's see what we get. It's not for animation or anything, so we don't have to be too perfect. But, that's not too bad. Yeah, we can work with that. Perfect. Let's go ahead. And the reason why I'm doing all this selection, for those of you who are coming in, is because I want to pose it, and it's easier to pose a subdivision model than it is to pose a Dynamesh model. What a punishment. Yeah, exactly. There we go. It's funny when you look back at that stuff and you kind of think like, wow, my parents definitely had an approach. But hey, it must have backfired on them because I love that game. All right. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and Control Alt Tap to make that a little sharper. There we go. Perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and Control Alt, which gives me a new selection. Now, what's interesting is actually, before I go ahead and ZBrush, I'm gonna want to clean this up a little bit. So this is where I'm gonna come in here and kind of see what I can salvage. Okay. Actually, for now, I'm going to split hidden. take this, split hit it. So now I'm just breaking this body up. We're going to select the area. So a little bit of cleanup, but that's okay. You guys do anything cool this weekend? Any fun ZBrush projects? Also, too, don't be afraid to ask questions if you have any. I love answering them as best I can. There we go. There we go. I'm going to go ahead, take that. Split hidden. There it is, right there. I'm going to take this selection, move this down to the body, and then we're going to go ahead and merge that back down. So there'll still be a little bit going on here, but that's okay. Hey, Talden, how you doing? At least you didn't have to recover a Dark Souls game. Yeah, seriously, right? Hello, welcome in, Matt. Welcome in. So for those of you who are just joining the stream, A, happy Sunday. And then B, if you were here last stream, you guys know that I was working on this Cthulhu. And he's turning out to be one of my favorite long projects, since I only work on them here now. But that also gives you time to look at your model and realize that there are things about it that you may or may not like. And that's okay, you know? There's nothing wrong with that. So what we're doing is actually changing things up. We're going to change the pose and kind of play a little bit, but we got to get some prep work done first. Yeah, that's better. Cool. So a little bit of rework, but that is okay. I think that's one of the big things that, you know, especially a lot of artists, when you're starting out, I know it happened to me where I would like kind of beat myself up a little bit if I didn't get it right the first time. And that's not always the case. So it's okay. There we go. Something like that. Kind of get in there a little bit. Hello from France. Yes, welcome in, welcome in. Is freelance a good way to start 3D career rather than shooting straight for the industry? It depends. It really depends on what kind of opportunities you might, like what your end game is and what you're actually trying to achieve. I think freelance is a great way to get in. That's how I got into the industry. Because it kind of A, allows you to try new things. B, you can hit the private sector, meaning people who just want one-off pieces that don't necessarily have like a big project, but you want to bring in a few bucks. And at the same time, you can work on building up your skill set, try new things. So yeah, it can be a great way. Again, it just depends on your end goal. However, I think the most important thing to do is focus on building a nice, clean, strong portfolio. So if you're trying to make a few bucks on the side, yeah, definitely try to freelance. That's what I did, especially during quarantine. The first time, a year and a half ago, I lost my job, and then I was just trying to stay relevant. So as I progressed, I freelanced, brought in some money, and that was helpful. So it definitely is a great way to do it. And also, freelance, you can, if you feel like you're confident in your skills and you want to like help people get started in ZBrush, you know, start live streaming, kind of put yourself out there. Yeah, it's all just a great way to get going. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take that. Perfect. Okay. Hello from the Philippines. Welcome in, welcome in. All right. So let's go ahead and merge this back together. There you go. Let's merge this down. Something like such. There we go. We're going to make this one polygroup. Just like such. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to... Well, first I'm going to save. So let's go ahead and do that. Always save. Hey, such a cutie toy. Yeah, he's a little fun. This pose is we're gonna be changing it. I still love the shape of him. I like what we've done with him, but it's definitely kind of just, he's just kind of bleh. Yeah. So we're gonna change that. We're just right now breaking up the polygroups, creating new polygroups that we can use to then pose. There we go. Let's go ahead, Control-Alt-Tap, sharpen that up, Control-W. Gives us something like that. All right, great. Save one more time. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and Dynamesh this, but I'm going to Dynamesh it with groups on. What that's going to do is hopefully it will Dynamesh everything, but it won't merge it. And that's going to keep everything separate, so I can go ahead and fix a couple things, merge it back together, then ZRemesh. The reason why is because right here, this is originally connected to his chest, and there's holes. If I try to ZRemesh with that the way it is, it might actually cause some complications. So I want to be able to move this away from him, and then go ahead and get it cleaned up. So let's go ahead and get that done. So I'm going to use plugin Dynamesh Master or Dynamesh Utility. Each works fine. Blur, going to go to 0. Turn groups on. And now we're going to go ahead and Dynamesh that. Let's see what happens. Hey, and happy birthday. Oh, thanks, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right. So that kind of helped out a little bit. But now I got to clean up his chest and stuff a little bit, so let's go ahead and do that. We'll take the Trim Dynamic brush, and we'll get in there and start cleaning this up. We're going to lose some textures, but that's okay. Because texturing is fun, and there's another method I want to use. So this will be just fine. Also, too, look at that guy right there. I'm going to delete hidden on that little guy right there. Close holes. It is your birthday? Happy birthday. Yeah, it is my birthday. Yes, it is. I am 38 years old. Or years young, depending on how you want to look at that. All right. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of start masking this spot right here. I'm going to get that right there. Also, too, if you have a lot of these floaty bits, if you go to polygroups and autogroups, a lot of times you can get rid of those floaty bits by hiding them and then hitting delete hidden, and that's what gets you what you're looking for. Old people everywhere. Still a baby, though? Yeah, still a baby. I'm 38, and I feel... Some days I feel a little older, and, you know, it's ebb and flow. I've definitely done a lot more sitting in quarantine, so... so I feel older than maybe I should. Some days. Not every day, though. Get out there and get my steps going. Okay. Years achieved, right? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and actually move these tentacles out the way. Just a little bit. Oh. Kind of did that a little backwards. All right, cool. Go ahead, delete hidden, close holes. So when you use Dynamesh to fix a few things, you can definitely have a little bit of cleanup to do. But that's all right. It happens. Let's go ahead and smooth that down. You turned 39 this year? I can't believe I just said that. Isn't that crazy, Chris? Also, welcome in, welcome in. How are you doing? It's funny how, like, the end of your 30s can feel... I don't know. It can feel like you're getting older, but then also you still feel young. Is that just like the struggle with humanity? All right, let's go ahead and delete hidden there. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take groups off because I am going to want this to be... Do I want this to be one piece? Or do I want to pose this differently? You know what? I have so many thoughts in my head about how I want to do this. Does dynameshing with groups always leave the seams between the groups like that? Yes, that's a great question. So dynameshing with groups, what that does is actually closes the holes in between each of the polygroups. So yes. So this way, what you can do is actually move those pieces, but you're not working with a mesh that's exposed. Yeah, great question. Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate the birthday wishes, guys. Thank you so much. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and actually duplicate this one more time. So we have our original mesh that we broke up. We don't really need this anymore, so I'm going to delete that. Turn this bad boy on. Save one more time. Control-Shift-D duplicates any subtool or folder you have selected, so be careful with that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn groups off, and I'm going to Dynamesh one more time to hopefully kind of bring everything back together. So now you can see it re-welded itself, and now that mesh is one solid piece. But we're going to be using these polygroups to ZBrush. Hey, Kamara! Thank you so much, guys. You guys are going to make me blush. All right. Now let's ZBrush. So we're going to go to deformation, and I'm going to polish by groups. That's going to kind of clean up those groups a little bit. So we had them kind of jagged like this. Now we did that right there, which is perfect. And now I'm going to go ahead and ZBrush. And I have a shortcut for that. I'm going to start at 10 polygroups. We'll keep groups and ZBrush. Kamara the legend. Oh yeah, Kamara's amazing, guys. It is hot over in SoCal. What is it over where you guys are? Somebody here still have like snow or just cool weather? Okay. Let's see how our mesh looks. Probably broke it a little bit. Yeah, that's a bit ugly. So let's back it up a little bit. Let's go just a little higher. I don't want it too low. I'm freezing per usual. Send a snowball over here. It's funny how like California gets like oddly hot really quick. And for some reason it's more humid than usual. It's almost 80 in Wisconsin. So if we are hot, then no. Gotcha. There we go. That's a better ZBrush. It's 20,000 polygroups. Perfect. Because what we're going to do next is we're actually going to subdivide it a few times. And then we're going to go ahead and project those details back. So we're going to go down to project all, color, geometry, and get some of those details from the mesh version back to our now subdivided model. Never seen snow. I think I've seen snow like maybe once. Oh. Like, seriously, I've probably seen snow like maybe a couple times. The humidity is what really kills. Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. So there we go. So we made a Dynamesh model into a subdivided model, and then we went ahead and gave it some polygroups. Now we have a subdivided model that's pretty close. We zoom all the way in. If we go up to the Dynamesh model and then back down, you can see that the differences are almost non-existent, which is great. Snow is overrated. But you know, every once in a while, I wouldn't mind it. Okay, so I'm going to go through and just kind of clean this up a bit, and then we're going to focus on posing. So sometimes if you do this method, you'll see these seams. You just have to come back in here and clean them up a little bit. I'm just smoothing them out, because we're going to break our model anyway. When we pose, you typically do. Your model will get a little broken, so don't fret. We'll just rebuild it once we get there. And I think I'm going to be doing a classic sitting Cthulhu pose, because Cthulhu and I, we have something in common. We just are a little bit lazy these days. Snow is more fun to visit as opposed to live in. Yeah. I like snow. We didn't get any the year before last, and I was very upset. That's crazy. I mean, I see snow, like, it's far away and on, like, the mountaintops. And I never go visit it. Usually because they shut down the roads. Because in SoCal, most people don't have chains for their tires. So they just kind of shut the roads down a little bit. All right. There we go. Now let's go ahead and save a new version. Bloop. And then I'm going to delete the Dynamesh version so that because now we don't need it. And now we're going to pose, which is great. So let's get everything we need in place. There we go. And let's delete this. You don't need that one. All right. Perfect. Now let's start posing. So, like I was saying, I don't like this base, what I was doing, but I want to keep those trees. I think I'm going to utilize those trees. So we're going to hide that. And instead, what we're going to do is actually, under wings, we're going to insert a cube to be the thing that we're going to use for him sitting on, but it won't be what, it won't be the final. We'll have to make a new base for him. There we go. Does Cthulhu need a snowball now? It would be a big snowball. It would be, right? It'd be a huge snowball. All right. Very cool. So we're just going to go ahead and stick this down here. And now we're going to go to Z plugin and going to go to, where are you? I see you. I see you. I see you. Transpose master. And transpose mesh. Where's a good place to get freelance jobs? Honestly, every social media platform you have is a great place to start. The other thing too is if you're looking for freelance work, don't be afraid to reach out to companies, send a little email, or just introduce yourself. That can go such a long way. I've gotten freelance gigs with a few studios by just reaching out and saying, hey, my name is Ian, here's my portfolio. I really like your company. I really appreciate the stuff you do. And I hope that maybe one day we can work together. And you just kind of send out some feelers. Worst case scenario is nobody gets back to you. Best case scenario is somebody says, hey, portfolio looks great. I might have something. Let's stay in touch. LinkedIn, for me, is hit or miss. It's been more active now lately, but I've had LinkedIn for like 3-4 years. And not so much there. Twitter, Instagram, I've connected with a few people via DMs. And also, too, I've had people DM me. So just constantly put your stuff out. Announce that you're looking for work. Send some feelers out. And just kind of put it there. see what's going on. At the end of the day, it's all about just putting yourself out there, and you know, somebody will see it. Yeah. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to pinpoint like one good location, you know? I feel like a lot of business is done online now, so there's a lot of opportunities. You can also do stuff like maybe set up like an Etsy account if you have like original models you want to sell or things that you have in mind. If you want to sell STLs, like you can go that rabbit hole. So yeah, I would say let's try something like that. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pose this guy. There we go. So he's basically going to be sitting. I have a couple poses in mind, and I just kind of want him sitting with his hands on his lap. It's a very traditional Cthulhu pose. And we can break some anatomy rules, which is always fun. Anytime you can do that, I highly recommend you do that. So I'm actually going to start by moving him where I want him. There we go. Let's position him a little bit more center. There we go. I think that'll be good. Let's move that way. Okay. Now what we're going to do is I'm actually going to just isolate him. And this is where... Aha. What we're going to do is actually... come through here and start kind of highlighting his legs a bit. We're going to do one leg at a time. We can either mask lasso like that, or we can bring up the gizmo, hit Y, hold control and start dragging, and get a main selection, something like this. This will get us most of the way there. And then we can turn the lasso back on and highlight the rest. There we go. Hit Y again, gives us the gizmo, reset it, and then send it back. And now what we can do is position this more at where his hip is. I can't speak today. There we go. And now we're going to go ahead and actually start bringing this up. Actually, before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and create a new polygroup, Control W. I'm going to do that same technique. I'm going to move his arm out the way. Something like that. There we go. And we'll just kind of lasso the wrist. Just going to move this arm just a little bit out the way. There we go. So kind of broke this part right there. So lasso, hold Alt. There we go. Perfect. So we're going to move this a bit for now. Hold on. Need to select his nails. Let's go ahead and hide the things we don't need. Like such. And mask off the other things we don't need. There we go. Now we can move that. Let's get that moving. Does polygrouping and transpose mesh make you lose your polygroups when you get out of it. Unfortunately, it does, yes. If you have a bunch of separate groups, so it'll recognize each subtool as a different polygroup because it brings everything together. But what you can do is if you have everything like this, you can go ahead and hit auto groups, and then it'll group all your subtools as a different section. But yeah, it unfortunately does make you lose your polygroups a little bit. Okay. Let's go ahead and smooth some of that down. There we go. Kind of all over the place today. There we go. How are you doing? Hey, Manifesto, how you doing? I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Thank you so much for the information. I hope you don't mind the questions from a noob. No, I don't mind questions at all. Please, guys, ask away. Absolutely. Okay. So we're going to bring this leg up. And like you could see here that we're actually getting a lot of mesh tearing. So we want to kind of make sure that we're not afraid to break this, which is essentially what we're going to be doing. So there's going to be a lot of resculpting work happening. And that's okay. There we go. We're going to stick this leg up, and we're going to pose it. Break it! I cannot, but I mean, I can use Google Translate for any translation, but I don't have control over different language translations. So if you write your question in your language, I can try to use Google Translate, and then hopefully that'll answer it as best I can. Yeah, exactly. If you pose without rigging, resculpting is pretty much unavoidable. And if you want to rig, then you want to try to build a very super clean mesh. But yeah, it definitely is kind of unavoidable. Okay. Okay, I'm going to move I know we moved this character, but I'm going to move this box just for the time being, just so I can get this more correct. Hide all that. And this stuff definitely takes time, so don't be afraid to just take a deep breath, put on some favorite music, or hang out with some favorite peeps, and get stuff moving. Like me, sometimes my stuff is very messy, and I am definitely not afraid to asymmetrically sculpt it back in place. I knew this was going to be a super fun pose too. Why is there a Vegeta head on the side? So this is my cam view, and it's there because I changed my cam view from the basic head to a Vegeta head. This is a sculpt I did a while ago, and I love it, so. You might try Z-sphere rigging again. I haven't done Z-sphere rigging in such a long time, and when I did do it, I seriously broke it. I should probably try it again too. There we go. Okay. I'm gonna take this guy and let's repeat it. Repeat stuff. Now, if you guys want to save your pose, in case you're like, ugh, I don't want to do so much work, send it back and have it corrupt, which it is possible, make sure you go to Z plugin, hit T-pose mesh again, and that brings up an option to save your T-pose mesh. And then somewhere, anywhere, just say, yep, save that. So that way you can save your progress. If you're going to be doing a lot in T-pose, that's highly recommended. Worst case is that you break it, and then you have to restart ZBrush, which I've had happen before. So, especially if you make big moves. Okay, let's grab this guy right here. We're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna bring this up. Whee! Say my rage quit Z-sphere rigging. Yeah, love the Vegeta. Thank you, thank you. Repeat stuff. Yeah, I did not know you could save your T-pose mesh. Yes, you can, absolutely. Hey, I'm glad. All right. Sometimes, guys, you just, you never know. Things happen, and it's always good to have an option to save. All right. Let's go ahead and set that right there by the knee. So notice, guys, too, that I'm moving the gizmo to the center of the axis within the object that I want to move. It limits breaking. I mean, it's obviously still breaking, but it limits how it breaks. And in my opinion, it's a lot easier to make those adjustments. So, just a little thought. All right. There we go. So again, T-pose mesh, save it. Go here. And it just saves a GOT file. Repeat stuff. Some kind of plugin or something. Oh, for the Vegeta head? No, it's not a plugin. It's just a cam view. And if you guys would like to know how to do it, I've showed it a few times. But if you actually have a video on how I done it. So if you actually go over to my YouTube, where I'm starting to make more and more videos, go to ZBrush Help. And I actually have, go back, videos, right here. You guys can actually watch how I did it, which is pretty cool. So if you guys want to know how to change your cam view, go ahead and check that one out. It's pretty fun. Oh, what just happened? Ooh, my tablet just started acting weird. Oh. The weirdest thing just happened. I'm actually clicking inside a ZBrush, and my tablet is actually controlling my pure ref. Interesting. Let me go ahead and close that down. Yeah, go ahead and save that. Let's see if that fixes Ooh, that is not good. How did that happen? 1 second. Well, I got to bounce. I spent all weekend repairing the outside of my house, and I'm tired. Happy birthday again. See you next time. Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hey, Slopey, how you doing? You know what? So I'm actually going to. My tablet is giving me a weird error, and I don't know why. It's like duplicating my main screen. So I'm actually going to use the mouse for this. Let's do this. All right. So you might hear clicking, and if you do, that's what's happening, which is very bizarre. How bizarre. Okay. I don't recommend using a mouse, guys, but it can be done. There we go. I don't know what happened either. That's very weird. Ooh, this is a new experience. There we go. All right, there we go. Let's do that one. So I'm just kind of coloring the arms a little bit. Another question. Yes, I love it. Is it indispensable to know how all the pipeline from sculpting to texturing to get it into the industry, or are there opportunities for people who just sculpt? I think it's actually important to know the pipeline as best you can. That's only going to open up more opportunities. Even as somebody who mainly spends most of my time in ZBrush, I still have to understand the process, because the cleaner your pipeline is, the easier it is for you to get work, because then you're going to set other people up for success, especially if you're trying to get into the game industry, VFX, or film. The idea that you have a clean sculpting process, trying to retopo when you need to, have clean geometry, also makes it easier for texturing as well. So it is important to know the pipeline as best you can, and don't be afraid to ask as well. Hey, what's going on, me? Hello, Ninar! Does XP have its own display software? It does, yes, but for some reason, my pen is actually displaying... My pen is displayed on my main one. I'm seeing two different things, like it's two different monitors, but yeah, it's treating it like I'm on number 1, even though it says I'm on monitor 2, which is my main tablet. So I don't know what happened. It's a weird error. I'm gonna assume that it's actually the XP pen's fault. Here in a minute, I could try actually to turn the monitor off and on again, but that might be a little weird for the stream, so we might just use this as a challenge opportunity to see what it's like on sculpting with a mouse. And then recommend that you never do that. I take challenges as they come, trust me. I'm like, oh yeah, we can do that. Okay. There we go, there we go. So I'm going to take this, and I'm actually going to focus on bending this part first. And luckily I'm just masking and using a gizmo for the most part to do the work. I'm not actually sculpting. So I can very easily I can easily do this with a mouse. I've done some technical stuff with a mouse on ZBrush. It's just not recommended to do it all the time. There we go. Let's kind of move that here, and we're going to bend up this arm like such. Oops, actually I want to make sure his nails come with him. It's just a weird little bug that's occurred all of a sudden, so not quite sure what happened. But that's okay. We roll with it. Worst case scenarios, I just kind of like put a be right back sign up, and then I fix it, hopefully without disconnecting. Okay, I'm going to control click to kind of soften that up a little bit. Hold Alt down to reposition the gizmo. Move this up and over. Again, we're going to select this guy right here. Move this back. Reset this here, like such. Kind of reset that. And then we're going to kind of swing this shoulder back a little bit. Pull it back. There we go. So a bit messy of a workflow. I'm actually going to shorten his arm a little bit too. You don't always have to keep everything 100%. My finger's going to get super buff. I know, right? This Cthulhu would make amazing as a stone idol from a book. Yeah, that's kind of what we're going for. So hopefully it works. Okay. Let's see here. Hold S, bring this down a little bit. Go ahead and use the move brush. Kind of smooth this down. So again, I'm not going to worry about the details or anything when it gets pushed back. Going to be a lot of fixing to do, and that's okay. Let's not break the anatomy that needs this today. He's a mytho creature, so we can give him long legs, long arms, but his pectoral muscles, his clavicle, all that stuff needs to be correct, which we will fix momentarily. All right. Yeah, not too bad. This stuff right here, like his finger position, all that, we can fix that in the actual sculpting process. I like to use T-pose for big movements, but for tiny movements or more refined movements, we can do that in the main part. So we'll just get that as close as we can. There we go. All right, we're going to do the same thing. Recenter that. Reset. There we go. Kind of move that right there. Bring that in. Right-clicking with a mouse is actually pretty easy. There we go, like such. I'm going to soften that selection up a bit. Move it into the shoulder. And we'll kind of rotate that clavicle back. Push that back. I am starting a ZBrush course next week, and man, that UI is intimidating. Yeah, the UI can definitely be a little intimidating, but no, it is 100% custom. So, what you're seeing for me is a lot of the stuff that's on top is what I use the most, and then a few stuff I've added on the side and removed a bunch of other things. But definitely just get in and kind of see where things are in the menu, make little notes, and then use hotkeys, of course, as well. How old are you, and how long have you been sculpting for? So I am 38 years old today, and I've been sculpting for a little over 5 years. I started out as a 2D artist when I was a kid, and then walked away from that. And then about 5 years ago, I discovered sculpting, and a buddy of mine turned me on to ZBrush, and I've just been in love with it ever since. What kind of tablet are you using? I have an XP Pen Pro Artist Pro, and I have some issues with it too. I'm using the XP Pen 13.3 Artist Pro, and the issue I'm having currently is the first time I've ever seen it, where it's thinking I'm on a different monitor than I actually am. Which I don't know what to make of that. It probably will be fine once I reset. I've never had that problem before. Or XP and I will be on the phone trying to figure it out. But yeah, I actually love this tablet. It's pretty happy with it. Mainly because of affordability. Let's move that arm up. There we go. And let's deselect that. So notice I actually was mask lassoing, hold Alt, and that deselects. Clicked back. Put that back in here. Blah, 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 blah. Smooth this down. And back. So again, we have a lot of fixing to do. And that's okay. Big movements. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. That's super inspiring to hear, man. Thank you. Not a problem. Wow, I thought you were 30. Oh, I'll take that. Yeah, I'm 30. What's my opinion of Sculptress? The Sculptress Pro, I like it. I'm trying to learn to use it more often. I have a pretty solid workflow where I dynamesh everything in the beginning, and then I quickly move the subdivisions to keep it as clean and as low poly as possible. But when I need to make a fix, Sculptress Pro is amazing, especially when I'm feeling lazy and I know I'm just going to 3D print it and the geometry doesn't matter. Sculptress Pro is great to get super fine details with mesh that you really don't want to subdivide up anymore. So, no, I find it great. I just don't use it as much in my workflow. And I actually honestly would like to start using it more in my workflow. But yeah. Okay, hit Alt and then hit that little icon. And we're actually going to rotate his hand around. So again, we're just making some really big movements here. I'm actually going to want to lean him forward a bit. Cool. Let's grab this guy. Let's grab that guy. I'm actually going to, at his hips, kind of bring him forward a bit. Those eyes, I'm not really worried about those eyes. They're just spheres at the moment. We'll fix his bum when we can get to it. So right now it's pretty rough, but we'll fix it. Most of the time your sculpts are going to be a little rough in the beginning. You just kind of work through it and focus on layering and texturing. We're going to fix his hands and such. Trying to select his fingies. Let's get this right here. There we go. I'm going to just pivot that hand a bit. There we go. Something like that. Oh, let's see here. The thing about the UI of a program that you don't know is that you see... This is one thing, yeah. If you break things down, they're pretty simple. Yeah, it's a good tip. Julian does it every once in a while. Ooh, interesting. Okay, cool. Good to know. I'm sure it will be as Photoshop is for me nowadays. Nice. Yep, it's spooky at first, but when you look at it, so it's one by one, it's okay. Yeah. Yeah, the UI for me was intimidating in the beginning, but then I was able to, I just poked around. Don't be afraid to try things, see what a button does. Here's a really cool thing, a really good tip about the UI. If you're in doubt with something, like let's say you go to render and you don't know what render booleans is, if you open it up and hover over a button and hold control, it'll actually explain to you what that function does. And if you let go of control, it will leave that around. That goes for every button within ZBrush, even the sliders as well. So when you're kind of poking around, open up a menu, hit a button, and then hit control, and it'll just explain to you a little bit. So it's a neat little shortcut. There's so much to know. Yeah. I think I had the same problem some days ago with my tablet turning off and on. The Windows Ink option in the pen tablet worked for me. Yeah, I don't know if that actually got turned on. I don't think it did. It was working fine, and then it like glitched on me. Let me actually see. Let me see if Windows Ink got turned on accidentally. Oh. Eh, I'll figure it out. What are some of your artist influences? Oh, man. I actually have a wide range of artists I love to follow. Um, Shane Olson, for sure. He was my teacher, of course. So Shane Olson is a huge influence. But Rafael Grassetti is another one. And on the top of the list, Steve Lord, huge influence. Actually, Steve Lord is why I pushed to learn how to sculpt asymmetrically, because that's like all he does. He like sculpts in pose, and it's super inspiring to take a look at his work and see it like it's like a blob, and then hours later it's like this amazing sculpture that I'm like, oh my gosh. So huge influence right there for me. Probably one of my favorite. Okay. Let's drop that intensity down a lot. Just kind of quickly tap. What I'm going to do after I'm done posing this is I'm going to turn off my tablet and turn it back on and see if that fixes it, because, wow, this is super intimidating. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Transpose Master. I'm going to be saving this quite a bit. So click on T-Pose Mesh, hit save, and then save that bad boy. ZBrush easy. You click, you sculpt, done. I don't remember who said it, but only knowing 20% is enough to be dangerous. Yeah, actually, it's you can get 80% of your work done with 20% of the knowledge of the program. So it's a 20-80 approach. 80% of your work will be done by 20% of the actual program you use. So you don't really need to focus too much on whether or not, you don't have to learn everything. I am still learning ZBrush every day. There is something every day to learn within ZBrush. And honestly, what I try to do is look at a new feature a month, which seems like, that's like not a lot. But the more advanced with ZBrush you get into, the more you can really just take that one thing and try to adapt it into your workflow as best you can. So I just try to keep learning. It's like Paul Gabry says, guys, it can be done in ZBrush. All right. Whee! There we go. Let's move that up. Kind of right click on it. Let's bring that there. Let's move that back up. Holding right click, move that gizmo. I'm going to bring that shoulder up now, because when you put your hands on your legs and you're like bringing your legs up, that shoulder is going to move too. So I sat in this pose a couple times today, so you could trust me. Yeah, exactly. 28. You can do almost everything and anything with the 4 main brushes. Absolutely. Let's go ahead and deselect that. His fingernails need to do that thing, so we're going to go ahead and move that up. Going to go ahead and select right here. And me, guys, my approach to a lot of things is it takes as long as it takes. Okay, his fingernails keep getting all over the place. So I will just manually move those later. Come on, go back. There we go. Let's try that one more time. Move it on up. Move it on over. There we go. All right, perfect. Where do you get your creature ideas or concept art? Or are they original? I'm new to ZBrush and sculpting, but I've only been making head busts. Don't know where to go from here. So, Ruined Eraser, I think if I'm reading that name right. Honestly, a lot of my ideas are kit bashed together from concepts or things that I've been inspired by. The Cthulhu is something that I've loved and sculpted a bunch of times. It's kind of like my benchmark sculpt. I have a couple of those. I sculpt Venoms, I sculpt Cthulhu's, and Vegeta, actually. Those are like my 3 benchmark sculpts that every year I'll do at least once. But a lot of times what I've been doing is I've been finding concept arts and other statues that inspire me, and then I basically use those as reference, and I try to make something that's similar but yet my own. The other thing that I do is I also practice sculpting concept one-to-one, meaning that I'm going to copy that concept as close as I can possibly get it. Which is a skill all on its own, by the way. In fact, a lot of times, especially if you're working for a studio and you want to take a character, they have a concept artist. Usually concept art is done in 2D. Not all the time. Sometimes you can do it in 3D, but for the most part, it will be done in 2D. And then your job as the character sculptor is to take that concept and turn it into a 3D model that then will be taken off. So practicing one-to-one concept sculpting is highly recommended to do. But a lot of times, just if you're running out of ideas, just note that you don't need to have an original idea every time you sculpt something. Just take something that inspires you and try to sculpt it and practice on getting it as close as you can to that piece. You know, and then if you use somebody's concept, just go ahead and make sure that you credit that artist. You can even ask them for permission. You know, I did that a lot in my first year of sculpting, where I found a concept, I loved it. I reached out to the artist and said, hey, I think your artwork is great. I would like to try to make a 3D version of this. And, you know, whether you get an answer or not back, just always make sure to credit the original artist in that work. And don't take, you know what I mean? Always give credit where credit's due. Hey, what's going on, MJ? How you doing? Okay. So we're actually going to go ahead and kind of push that up. There we go. So now he's kind of sitting. Grab that. Just move these eyes on over. Thank you. I will try that. Absolutely. Yeah. I know. Actually, that's a great question, and I want to elaborate a little bit more, because I thought the same thing when I started sculpting. I thought, oh my gosh, I have to have an original idea every time I open up ZBrush. No. You know, you'll burn yourself out faster than you can imagine. And also, too, if you're ever just not sure, you don't always have to make a masterpiece. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to sit here and make a full-blown statue each time. Practice some of the fundamentals. Practice just making an arm. Practice making a tree, or making a little prop gun. You know, make a cup, make a vase. Like, it doesn't always have to be a character. I'm actually starting to sculpt more animals, especially since the current job I'm working on right now. I'm actually sculpting an animal figure, and it's a lot of fun. So I want to do more work of that. So yeah, a lot of times, you know, sometimes you just practice the fundamentals too. I spent a couple hours yesterday just making VDM brushes for texturing. You know, just trying to get it as clean as possible, and also try to find new ways to texture and do different techniques. And yeah, a lot of times it's just as simple as that. Let's grab this guy right here. I'm gonna bring this up. This is a temporary spot, so I'm not gonna get it perfect. There we go. Kind of have him. Yeah, there we go. We have a lot to fix here, so we'll make a little like rock or something for him to sit on. But I think that's a pretty good start. Let's see what we can do with that. So let's go to Z plugin, go to T-Pose Mesh one more time. Let's save it. I saved it in the wrong location. Hit save one more time. Let's just delete that version. Come in here, save this version. There we go. Currently working on my portfolio. Character art, nice. Is there any advice you have for making my portfolio stand out? Oh my gosh, yes, yes. Okay, so for making your portfolio stand out, really focus on a super beautiful, captivative render. First impressions for portfolios are key, guys. Like, if you want to go ahead and take a look at mine and use mine as an example, here's my link tree. You can go ahead and jump on my ArtStation. But one of the things that you want to do is actually, and I can show you, is you want to make your portfolio kind of like captivating in a way. So if we just pop over to mine real quick, I have one of my best pieces on display right when you get here. And then it just tells you instructor of ZBrush, digital sculptor, artist. And it kind of gives you the sense of who I am right out the gate. And then each one of my renders, I try to make it as dynamic as possible and inviting as possible. And you can see I have a wide range of styles. That's my preference. You want to try to, showcase your best work. So this is a living, breathing thing, meaning it's going to change. There were things in here that you're going to get rid of, and there are things in here that you're going to leave. But for the most part, if you put something up and then 2 months from now, you're like, this piece just looks horrible, get rid of it, throw it out. But, always make sure that your pieces are on display. It's your best work, and it's something you're proud of. And, yeah, have it kind of bring you in as best as possible. I'm always updating my portfolio as best as I can and changing it where it's necessary. And I'm super picky about what I put in there. And then consistency. Have a consistent look about it. You don't want to change things too drastically. So when you put something in there, if you're going for games, make sure you have nice clean UVs. Make sure that you have a nice solid render. Make sure that you have a good breakdown of what you're doing. So that way when somebody comes in, they don't have to guess. It just showcases everything. If you're going for what I do, which is statue work and toys, really you just need a nice clean render. Then you need to be able to showcase that you 3D printed it. And I have like a nice clay breakdown. If you have 3D printed keys, showcase the keys either in like a turntable exploding display, or just kind of have it to where people can kind of recognize, that's how it's fit together. Either way, you just kind of show and break down the process as best you can. But again, only your best work. Don't just throw everything in there. That can get a little daunting. And if somebody has to go in and kind of, they're confused by what they're seeing, they're just going to skip over you. So portfolio work, just treat it like it's always your best all the time and be super nitpicky. Super pungent advice for sure. Do you have clips of creating the user key interface? I don't have clips of that, but if you have any questions about specifically how you what you want to showcase, let me know. Cthulhu looks like it's getting ready to play blues on the harmonica. Yeah, I love it. It feels like you should be sitting on a suitcase on the side of the road. Right? A Vegeta head, though. Yeah, I love the Vegeta. Yeah, thank you. 2 questions. Don't know if I asked you of this before, but is there any benefit to using screen tablets for a sculptor? considering getting XP Pen, but I don't have. Well, sorry, but have been having a hard time justifying the upgrade for my Intuos Pro against other planned expenses. Honestly, I like the screen tablet, but I can go either way. If this screen tablet broke tomorrow, I would just quickly. I have a backup $40 tablet. It's no big deal. Let's send this back while we chat for a second. So we're gonna hit T-pose mesh, and that's gonna send back and probably break it. So I can go either way with it. I prefer the screen because it's like, for me, that one-to-one, pen to paper. However, I've done both. So if money's an issue for you and what you currently have works for you, I recommend just staying there. But if you're like, I need a new tablet, just note that transferring from a non-screen tablet to a screen tablet was a little bit of an adjustment for me. It took me a couple days to get used to it, but then I fell in love with it, and I've loved it ever since. But the tablet doesn't make the artist, you know what I mean? So the tablet, it can only speed up your workflow, but it's not going to be a huge night and day difference, I don't think, personally. So for game dev, UV texture breakdown is a must. Oh, absolutely, yeah. If you're trying to get into games and you want to show everything, show your texture work, your UVs, your layouts, they want to see your topology, so show clean topology. Like, yeah, break everything down as neatly as possible, and that way they know you can do the job. Because that's the thing, like, you want to remember that your portfolio is to showcase that you can do what you say you can do. At the end of the day, if somebody can look at your portfolio and be like, oh yeah, this guy can do this. Because you could take the top artist in the world and he just shows an awesome render and he applies for a game job. But then you come in with a good character. It's not as good as this guy, but you show you can do the UVs. You show that you can do the texturing, that you can break it down and deliver a neat package. The technicals matter just as much as the sculpt. So, if you're not going to showcase what you're applying for, then you'll get overlooked. So just make sure that whatever you're applying for, see what they recommend of you, and just look at job descriptions. Go on Indeed, go on ArtStation, see what they ask of you. Usually it's, UV cutting, textures. They want to know if you can use certain programs, etc., etc. So all of that, showcase it, definitely a must. Okay. So see, there we go. All right, okay, here's what we're going to do real quick, guys, because I think my tablet is still being a little weird. So, where did I put my pen? There it is. Okay, yeah. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to quickly turn off my tablet and turn it back on, but I'm not ending the stream. So let me try one thing real quick, and I'll be right back. Hopefully this works. Hello, IT. Have you tried turning it off and on again? Yay! Okay, that worked. All right, let's go. And back we go. Oh, okay, got my pen back. All right, let's see. I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Okay, hold on. I have a question. I really want to get inside sculpting, but I don't have a good PC. Can I practice even with a bad notebook? Absolutely. Remember that ZBrush has a few different options. We have ZBrush Core Mini, which is completely free, and that can get you into the just sculpting phase. They have ZBrush Core, which I believe is about $180, and that will run on some pretty decent low-budget laptops, notebooks. What I recommend is just check your specs and look at the recommended specs for each one, so that way you can ensure. Because I don't know what you have exactly, it's hard to say. So just compare your specs to what's on the software. But I've run ZBrush Core, for example, on a very inexpensive laptop, and it worked just fine. So just check your specs. Let's see. Second question is how to block out the breast because I'm having troubles on the base mesh I'm making. Oh, got you. Okay. Give me 1 second, actually. Let me save this. Yeah. So lots of references key when you're blocking stuff out. A lot. But what I would say is if you open up your spotlight, there is a female ecrochet in here. So if you go to projects, so we got project, you go to tools, and you open up the Ryan Kingsley ecrochet, it is a female ecrochet. And this will show you exactly where the breast tissue will go. So let's click this right here. So this will show you how it lays on the pectoral muscles. And notice that it's more of a kind of oval shape that actually is placed on the lower pec muscle. So it's not coming from under the armpit, and it's not even connected that way. It actually kind of comes up and around. So again, go to your spotlight, go to tool, open up the Ryan Kingsley model, and that will actually showcase that for you. So hopefully that's helpful. And it's just, boop. Yeah, in fact, so if we go here real quick, kind of move this up, you can see where it hovers exactly, which is near the breastplate, just hovering over the lower pec. And then notice too that it's also starting, and it kind of rests on the rib cage and the first abdomen muscles up here on the top and on the obliques. So it kind of hovers on there. So remember, gravity, the way it works, it's pulling everything down, and breasts are mainly fat tissue. So it will have weight to it. And then also too, just kind of pay attention to how this shape is right here. How it comes and it follows the chest, and then it comes back down and then around. Of course, all of these features can be exaggerated based on the style in which you are sculpting. So just stuff to keep in mind. And there he is. There he is. ZBrush Core Mini is free. Yes, it is free. ZBrush Core Mini is free. ZBrush Core is about 180 USD. Yeah. Okay, let's see specs. Let's see, I missed. Yeah, it's like a cut down version. Perfect for beginners, as you don't get flooded with functions. Exactly. Absolutely. Let's see here. I have an ecrochet statue, actually. Nice. Yeah, then just follow your ecrochet statue. No problem, man. Remember, ZBrush Core is a CPU-based software, so even if you were to have a wooden GFX card, it wouldn't really matter. Absolutely, yeah. ZBrush is definitely CPU-based. Right-click the taskbar, go to Taskbar Manager and Performance, where you see the resources being used. What PC do you have? Oh, okay, awesome. All right. So now we can see we have this model, and we are high res, but now we can actually start fixing this. And this is where subdivision comes in. So you can actually hit Shift D to drop our subdivisions and hit D to bring those subdivisions back. And clearly we broke this like a lot. So let's start fixing it by dropping our subdivisions and making small changes. Any tips for converting 2D stylized to 3D scene? Oh, yes. Hey, randomly generated. How you doing? The big thing... Okay, so when you're trying to do a one-to-one sculpt from 2D to 3D, the biggest thing to remember is depth. What makes certain characters really hard is if it's really simplified 2D art, like Gravity Falls, for example. I love Gravity Falls, and I don't know, I will showcase this for a second if you guys have seen this one. But let's take a look at this Gravity Falls statue right here. Okay, so this art style is very, very, very simple. And so there was a lot of information with these characters that was hard to convey into from 2D to 3D. So my knowledge of anatomy comes into play, but I'm trying to get a good position for this. Let's see if we can do this. There we go. So what I recommend is if I take this, let's look at Mabel and Dipper for a second. If I were to kind of rotate this, oh my gosh, zoom, focus. If I were to kind of rotate this at a 3/4 view, that's actually the best position to get the purpose of depth, especially with 2D art. So I'll show you what I mean. If we can, like, don't want to get Disney slapped. Well, let me see if I can find, so for example, if we come on over and we're looking at reference, so if we just take just a cartoon character, let's take something like, you know, Bart Simpson, for example, right? So the idea here is that this 3/4 view will give us a sense of depth and purpose, where a straight on look, like this Tweety bird, for example, or even this pig here, this might be kind of hard to figure out what they actually would look like in 3D. So having a 3/4 view is actually extremely helpful to give you some sort of depth. Like even if we look at the SpongeBob here, it's very flat, right? But if we have a 3/4 view, we now get the sense of depth a little bit within each character. And that's very important in defining shapes. And so what I would say is try to get your concept in a 3/4 view if possible, and then also reference different angles and just see how that character is interpreted. From there, what I would say is break down your characters into the simplest shapes as possible. So you're going for, you know, SpongeBob, for example, is a sponge. He's a rectangle. Really simple. So from there, you can base that. Eyes are typically spheres. His nose is more cylindrical, but, you know, also kind of like, it's like cylindrical, but like warped, almost banana shaped. So you then take those shapes and you just start putting them together. And when you break things down really simple that way, a lot of doors start opening up. So don't focus in on the details, rather focus in on the shapes, and do draw overs. So, you know, if we have something like SpongeBob, for example, I would actually make sure that I would take this image and I would go into Photoshop and I would draw out the basic shapes and say, oh, okay, that all makes sense. Then you use that draw over as a foundation to start your sculpt. And then just compare. Yeah. If you guys would like to know pricing and all sorts of stuff with ZBrush, go to Pixologic.com. And then go to Get ZBrush, Buy ZBrush, and then they give you a breakdown of each one. They also have ZBrush Core, and so forth. And then also ZBrush Core Mini, if you scroll through their main page, ZBrush Core, ZBrush Core Mini, if you click that, that will take you to where you can download that, and so forth. So you just hit download, and it will start the process. Start jumping into sculpting today. So go to Pixologic.com, and that will get you all the information that you need. And also, too, just so you know, if you buy the full version of ZBrush, like they upgrade for free all the time. Like I bought my license 5 years ago, and it's been upgraded for, so it's like a one-time fee, and then they upgrade you. So it's a great investment. Yeah. Yes, SpongeBob crackhead. Yeah, exactly. So hopefully that advice makes sense with starting to conceptualize. But a lot of it, I know we say this all the time, but it really does boil down to practice as well. And just know that, I mean, look at my sculpture. This right now, I'm hugely in what is known as the Valley of the Suck. Like, this is gonna take me a bit of time to get out of this, but that's okay. We keep working, we keep sculpting. Luckily, my polygroups are a lot cleaner here, the way I had it set up, so I'm able to redefine a lot of things very, very quickly. And just keep at it. Things take time, and it really, at the end of the day, doesn't matter how long it takes you to get it done. What matters is that you're having fun, you're sculpting, and you are pushing each thing to its limit. And if you push it too far, dial it back. Like, yeah. Hopefully that makes sense. Don't be afraid to break it. That's actually the best advice I got when I was like really trying to learn. They said, break it. So I broke it. Now I can really select things. We can really go ham now. Whoop. Yeah, there is a subscription fee. But if you were to ask me how I would say to do it, like the other way you could do it too, guys, is like subscriptions. I think they're okay. It's a viable option if you're not sure, you want to invest a little bit of money to try it. No big deal. But what you could do too, which is another option, is if you do buy ZBrush Core, when you decide to upgrade, they actually will. Let me double check this, because they did when I bought it. Let me double check if that's the thing. But if you wanted to upgrade from Core, typically you actually get credited some of that money. Yes. Yeah. So if you were to upgrade from Core, they would actually take off $100 for that cost, because you've already invested a little bit. So just something to keep in mind as well. But if you guys have any purchasing questions, feel free to reach out to somebody at Pixologic for support, and they will answer that as best as possible as well. There's always somebody who's really helpful there. Yeah, I know somebody who owns an original like license, paid $200 for it, and has been upgraded ever since. Like, the support is amazing. Okay, I really busted up his anatomy, so we're really gonna fix that. That's okay. It's okay. Boop, 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 boop. Cool. Luckily, he's a fun little creature. He is looking like a kind of a sad panda, so should we have him looking up or down? That's a great question. I'm going to be putting him on a rock, so I think I'm happy with that leg position. Okay. But we're actually going to take this leg. Guys, I'm so happy that my tablet was an easy fix. Yeah. Kind of move that in a little bit. There we go. All right, let's actually prep a rock in this place. I'm actually going to delete this, and let's sculpt a rock. And sculpting rocks are fun. And I'm actually going to use some of these trees and stuff later. So we'll do like a rock base instead of this guy. So let's insert a sphere like such. And let's get a rock. And I'm actually just going to go ahead and dynamesh this. So I'm going to subdivide a few times, get some resolution, delete lower. And then I'm going to go to geometry, dynamesh. And I'm actually going to kick this up at like 250. Just give me a little bit of thickness. There we go. Something like that. Let's see. Some people best advice. Comparison between ZBrush Core and ZBrush for all of you wondering. Yeah, I've used ZBrush Core too, so if you guys have any specific questions about ZBrush Core, feel free to ask as well. I don't mind showing it off. It's really good. Out of the people I've seen streaming here recently, this dude's like the most entertaining to watch. Oh, thank you so much. Glad I could be of help. Trust me. Bloop. Okay, what does he want? What is his motivation? I don't know, Ryan. Would you recommend buying a tablet for 3D sculpting rather than using a mouse? Yes, definitely, cool man. Definitely. Without a doubt, sculpting with a mouse, as some of you might have seen me try or attempt recently, is it's challenging. It definitely is very difficult. So I would say yes, you would definitely want to sculpt with a tablet, and you can get a pretty affordable tablet. So you don't have to worry too much. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and quickly block out something that I could use as a rock shape. And I'm just using H polish to get some pretty flat. So clip curve and H polish to get something that is kind of usable. And then we'll end up texturing it more so later. Just want to get the idea of where he would be sitting. And see if that works. Bloop. He's looking at it like a huge epic gargoyle. I know, right? Oh man, I got an XP Deco tablet for $50. Yep, love it. Bought a Wacom into us along with it. Liked the XP way more. Oh, interesting, cool. All right. The other thing too is, so I just kind of like quickly threw it together like a stone. But when I really want to know what shape to make this, I would come in here and type in like large boulders, and I pull reference all the time to get a sense of what it is I'm trying to sculpt. So something like this, maybe something more like that, which is great. So we're going to go ahead and take this reference and run with it. So I'm going to start smoothing things down a bit. I'm going to drop the resolution to like 126. Keeping things loose is always a good idea. Ooh, it's almost 7 too. Let's see. Would it be a boulder or a mountain? It might be a boulder for him, but a mountain for you. That is for sure. Who knows? It can be anything. Right? Cthulhu world. Let's elongate this a little bit. We might even like try to find some fun script and maybe do something like such. I'm gonna clip that. Clip curve is great, guys. I highly recommend if you have not used it. There we go. There we go. Something like that. And let's establish scale. So I'm actually going to take this thing that we made before. see if we love it or hate it. At the end of the day, who knows? We can figure that out. For me, it's all about the silhouette. And if anything makes sense for 5 seconds, we use it. If it doesn't, we lose it. And I don't really know. Oh, good answer. All right. Okay. Most importantly is getting him to look right. And let's use the skin shade, because I'm sure that was kind of dark for you guys to see. I am really liking this a lot. Let's actually take this guy down. Okay. There we go. You guys have seen me really fiddle with this character for a few streams now, but at the end of the day, like I said, if you're enjoying what you're doing and it takes a little bit of time, this was a personal project, so I could take as long as I need. You know, don't ever feel the need to rush yourself. Okay, let's actually increase the resolution for a second and fix his bow tie, because we broke it. There's a lot going on there. So take the inflate brush, kind of bring that back, because we want that all connected. There we go. How did you change the head at the top right of the Vegeta? That's a great question, and I have a video on it, but I will also demonstrate it for you. It's actually a question I get asked a lot, but I will demonstrate it. So let's say I want this Cthulhu in its entirety right now to be my cam view, and I like it the way it is, right? So what you could do is take your entire model or a piece of it, however you want it to. For here, we're going to go to Subtool, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Merge Visible, which will give you a brand new subtool that everything is merged together. And what we're going to do is actually send it home so that it is in the center of your viewport, which is the most important part. And we click home, make sure it's there, great. And then what I like to do is hit F on the keyboard to make sure that it is framed, because if we're zoomed in or off center a little bit, it can be weird. So just hit F, which will either zoom into that one specific subtool or it'll like frame the whole thing, which is what we got here. And then all you need to do to get started is go to Preferences, come down to Cam View. I'm going to turn on the magnifying glass for this. So Preferences, Cam View, and then there's a button called Make a Cam View. And if I click this, it's going to take photos of everything within that viewport. Hit Shift M, and now you can see up here at the top, I now have my Cthulhu. But we're not done yet. What we're going to do is go to Preferences one more time, and we can go and adjust the scale and size so we can play with that. But we also need to save this out. So once you pick a size and stuff that you like, go ahead and come over here to the far left where it says Texture, and you'll notice now that there's actually a image with all the different angles of your model. I'm going to go ahead and click this and hit Export. And then what we want to do is we want to go to our local disk drive, wherever you installed ZBrush. You want to go to Program Files. And of course, this is I'm on PC. If you're on Mac, I believe it's Applications. And then you have to go into your applications that way under Utilities. But for Windows, go to your Program Files, then go to Pixologic, which is right here. Go into ZBrush 2021, and then go into Z Startup, and then Cam View. And then this is where you would save out your model. You type it, whatever it is, say Cthulhu Rocks. Save that out, and then go ahead and hit enter. And now you're almost done. What you have to do as well is come back up to preference, go under config, and hit store config. If you don't hit store config, what will happen is it will forget it the next time you close ZBrush down and reopen it. So make sure you hit store config, say OK, and then what I recommend doing is going back to preference and save your UI out, and it will allow you to save that customization. Now you have a cam view up top that is completely 100% yours to do what you want. The thing to remember with the cam view is A, it will remember the material, and B, it will also remember and capture the color. So try to make it as legible as possible when it's super small. So if you're in question with my model work or not, like zoom all the way out and look at it and be like, hey, can I understand and read what that is? And if the answer is no, then clean it up until you're satisfied with it, because it's going to be this big up here. Then the other thing you can do too, like notice if I put my model behind the cam view, it has like a little bit of a square. If you would like to make this completely transparent, go up to Document, and you have your back color. Make that 100% black. Send that back home and repeat the process, and that will actually, because ZBrush sees black as nothing when you go ahead and do that. So let's do that. Let's go to Preferences, go to Cam View, and then hit Make Cam View. Notice how it's gray, now it's dark. And what that'll do, if I go back to Document and make that its typical gray again, you'll see here now that it is 100% without that background. So, and then again, just go ahead and save that one out. Export, do the same thing. See startup, cam view, Cthulhu Rocks. We'll save over that. Go ahead and say yep. And then go to Preferences, Config, and Store Config. And you are good to go. In your experience, what is the expectation of time for a character? My expectation for my personal projects is to achieve something that I'm satisfied with, but to learn when I'm being pedantic or nitpicky. So if I have a term that I use called noodling, where I've heard other artists use it too, where if I'm doing something to a character and it's not actually progressing my sculpt and I'm just messing about, then typically I'm done. Like I just walk away. And then I'll usually like give myself like a little bit of time to come back and see. But if I'm doing a professional gig, usually the time is about 3 to 4 weeks. Sometimes less, depends on the project and depends on what they have you do. So practice getting used to making things or making your characters, a little quicker. Speed comes with time though, so don't feel like you have to rush that process. Just practice, and speed comes over time. So for me, honestly, if I had to put a number on it, I would say between 25 to 30 hours, I think is decent. But I know people who have put hundreds of hours into a sculpt. I personally have put 60 plus hours into a sculpt before. So it just depends, For me, it takes as long as it takes if it's personal. And if it's a work project, a lot of times you'll have somebody kind of helping oversee the process. It's called an art director. He'll come in and be like, hey, this looks good, this doesn't. And getting that feedback is crucial for you to make changes. Sometimes with our personal project, it takes longer too, because we're so like, yeah, I don't like it. So, Does the merge tool also merge the edges and verts or just the objects? It just merges the objects. If you want to then merge it into one, you can dynamesh it, or you can remesh by union, for example. Wow, that looks like a chess piece. It does, right? Yeah, it's starting to look pretty cool. I'm actually happier with this pose now, so. But we still gotta kind of clean it up a bit. So I'm gonna take a few things and Get pressing. Get pressing. Okay. Gonna drop subdivision down a little bit. Always helps when you're trying to do something. I'm gonna alt tap there to put the gizmo where I want it. And let's start moving this over so that he's more resting his arm there. I know he's kind of stabbing himself right now, so he might change that, but let's get the pose locked in before we worry about the little details. See how that one's doing, so maybe I'll move that leg when we get to it. And then let's take this guy right here. Let's highlight that. Let's actually press this down. Maybe move his feet a little bit. There we go. Yeah, that's fine. All right, let's get that pushed. Okay, let's see. So you turned the two subtools into one. Yes, yeah. That's awesome. Thanks. Hi, can I ask why the version of 2021.6.4 closes automatically when I save a tool? Can't use that version. I don't know. I would recommend Dracula, by the way, cool name, to reach out to Pixologic. I'm not quite sure I understand your issue. I would reach out to support and see if you can get an answer on why you save the tool, it closes automatically. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Struggle with that when it's done. Yeah, I try. We all do. It's hard to know when it's like, it's done, right? Like, sometimes too, I would say it's best to not be afraid to just walk away for a bit and then ask yourself later, like, hey, is this really like done? Am I happy with this? Am I, that could be hard, but at the same time too, like, that's where, I mean, if you feel comfortable sharing your work, that can really be beneficial, because then if you post something and people start really liking it, or you have a close friend who you don't mind getting a little bit of feedback from, sometimes that's helpful. Yeah, but it can be difficult. There's no real right answer for that. More of just like, hey, I hope that it's looking pretty good, and you just kind of make an educated guess as best you can. And learn from it too. You can learn from that experience as well. If you're working from a concept, it's usually easier, in my opinion, to factor if something is done. If you're working on a project like this, where I'm kind of making it up as I go, then I find it easier to ask yourself, like, oh, I think this is actually working. No, this isn't working. But, at the end of the day, are you happy with your project? That's really the starting question for me, and I recommend that be where you start as well. I love your work, is awesome. Cthulhu, thank you. Yes, it is Cthulhu. I really appreciate it. There's the other thing I found difficult: getting constructive, helpful feedback. Yes, that is so true. Well, I will tell you this, guys. If you would like to be in a safe place where you can post your work, ask artists for feedback, or just be a part of it, my Discord is like a very open community where everybody's welcome to come in, hang out. You can share your work, you can tag me and ask me if what I personally think, and I can give you my feedback on that as well. But mainly it's just a place where you can come share your work and hang out. And yeah, so if you want a place where you can just kind of post your stuff, feel free to join my Discord. And, you know, hopefully I could be of some help. Yeah, hey, what's up, Colin Clay? Yo, brother's popping in. It's looking better. Thank you, man. Yeah, I'm starting to really like this pose a lot more than I did. You know. Ooh, his eyes got all funky dunky. All right, let's go ahead and take this right here. Let's delete hidden. Delete hidden. I have a shortcut for that. Let's put his eyes back where they need to be. Just right in here. And we're going to go ahead and hold control and drag the other one on over to the other side. Pop that back a little bit. There we go. There we go. And I guess in a sense that was kind of today's theme a little bit, which is, you know, I started out with, I didn't like the pose I started with. He originally was standing, and I just didn't think it was working as well as I hoped it would. So I wasn't afraid to change it. And honestly, if that's where you can start, you know, and just try something new. Don't be afraid to jump in there and see if something else would work. You know, save off another version and just play with it. And if you're doing something similar, like, you know, there's 100,000 people who have done Cthulhu's, I took a look at other people's Cthulhu's and thought, is that working? Do I like that? And try to find inspiration on things that I did like and just be honest with myself and what I thought I could improve on. You know? At the end of the day, we're just making art, and art is supposed to be fun and enjoyable. Cool. Ah. Ooh, that would be excellent. Thank you. Not a problem. Whoop, whoop. Yay, nice drawing. Yep, yep. Let's see. Have I seen Fotis Mint's Cthulhu? That's one character that has so many different styles people make super cool. Cthulhu in general. Yeah, Cthulhu in general, but I don't know if I've seen the exact one you're talking about. I probably have come across it. Let me quickly Google search it. Because I'm very, very, very curious. I bet you I've seen it. I just can't. I'm bad with names. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Actually, yeah, that's a great one. That's a great one. Yeah. That's the thing. Actually, I had to convince myself to stick with the full body Cthulhu because seeing just the head bust was like, oh, that's so amazing. A little bit of warpage down there. All right, so I'm kind of looking at this too with how I'm going to 3D print this. So thinking I'm going to go resin. So I'm not too worried about supports. So I just want to make sure that things connect and make sense as a whole. That's ultimately the main goal. So I'm going to go ahead. So, okay, so here's a tip. If you're using the select lasso and you're getting this where you're trying to select a polygroup by holding Control-Shift and you're getting these loops, all you have to do is one of two things. Either go to your stroke and hit the rec under select lasso and then that will work. Or if you want to keep that on lasso, just go to the select rect and that will help you there too. Because the select lasso will, on its own, its help design is to actually isolate edge loops. And so a lot of times at higher subdivision levels, you're trying desperately to grab something. And of course, now I can't replicate the there it is. And you end up grabbing just a tiny edge loop. And that could be annoying. So go to select rect and that will always, every time, get the piece that you're looking for. Pro tip of the day. Bro, I never knew why I did that. Yeah, that's why it does it. That's why. And trust me, it's once I learned that, it changed my world. But I was always like, oh my stars, why does it do that? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and use this pizza box to isolate and move the nails and the hand together as one piece. And it's gonna kind of move his hands down like such. There we go. So his hands are a little dangling right there. There we go. I think this pose is way better, so I'm really happy with it. I guess the real question is, what happens if we move this hand? Let's do that right there. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. All right. I dig. Well, let's kind of fix that a little bit. Let's soften that selection. Let's come up here and move that just a little bit. There we go. Just taking it one step further. Let's save before we do anything. You are worthy. Yeah, I always just assumed it was a penance of the ZBrush gods. Like the random slash stroke from the heavens. Yeah, I know, right? Is pizza box a personal term for the gizmo move thingy, or is that widely used? I think everybody uses it. That's how it was that's how it was taught to me. So, I mean, I guess it could be a little hamburger box too, because it's 3. You know, it's a little 3, but it looks more like a pizza box. I don't know. Let's go with it and just say yes. Okay. Let's see here. Let's play with his wings a little bit. I think I want to flare this wing out. So we're going to soften this a bit. We're going to hit that pizza box thingy again. I'm going to deselect everything, and then I'm going to select lasso the things I want to move. I'm going to put that right there. I'm also going to... oh, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to invert the mask. There we go. Let's do this right here. And let's actually... oh, nope. I did need to do that. Let's grab that right there. There we go. Kind of have to mask everything a little bit. There it is. Yeah, there we go. Yes, yes, yes. So these wings, I'm probably going to cut off and print separately. I don't know what happened there. The first random polyloop I lesson, and now I learned about pizza box. My brain can't handle much more. We got you. We got you. It's all these little tricks of the trade, right? All right. Okay. Okay, let's focus a little bit more on this blob of a rock that I started making and then abandoned very quickly. All right. So I'm actually going to take this and use the trim dynamic. Now we are dynameshed at this point. So what I'm going to do now is actually go to Dynamesh and let's bump up the resolution to like 350. I'm gonna kind of swipe that, get a little bit more. Now I'm gonna take the clay. I'm gonna take the clay buildup. Do I want the clay buildup? I think I do. You guys are watching the indecisive me work. Yeah, let's do clay buildup. One of my favorite tools. And what I'm going to do is kind of just put in some simple forms and get some basic shapes happening. I'm okay with going a little messy at first. This is going to be kind of like a rock of sorts. So I'm just kind of like putting in little shapes that might make it what it is and not worry so much about texturing. I'm gonna get a little bit darker of a material. Let's actually get a matte cap. Let's try... Ooh, let's try the startup material that I used to rock. I got this over on the Pixologic resources. It's been pretty cool. Do I use normal filament when printing these? I go back and forth between, yeah, basic PLA filaments to an ABS-like resin if I use a resin printer or an SLA. I've something like this. It's a lot more complicated. It has a lot of details. I would put on, something like an Elgu Mars. I have an Epax X1, but you could print this. It would just take a long time with PLA, but you could. Kind of just slapping some clay down and seeing if I get something I like. I will be using some rock brushes from XMD. So if you guys are looking for really good brush kits for ZBrush full version, I highly recommend checking them out on that. I have a few of those I use. So I'm going to pull that up and see if I can find some brushes that I've used before. Because sometimes these rock textures are a little pain to get right. And it's good for concepting. But before I do that, I will try a few other things. Never use clay buildup. Now it's what I use 80% of the time when I sculpt. Yep. It's the technical terms to get you there. Yeah, okay, thanks, no problem. Let's see. Do I paint them? Sometimes. Sometimes I paint them, sometimes I don't. It just all depends. I more sculpt, and I'll paint concept in ZBrush to get an idea, and if I do end up painting them, I don't necessarily have time to paint my work, since that's not what I usually get hired to do. And my free time I usually spend hanging out with like my kids and stuff, so. Okay, I'm actually gonna lower the intensity and actually build up. So with the clay buildup, if you lower the intensity by like a lot, like let's say 5, you can actually start getting some pretty rough shapes that you can start smoothing out, and it can give you a nice subtle look. And I'm going to use that to kind of get some, quote, undercuts underneath this rock. Because I want this rock to be as interesting as possible from all sides. And now, luckily, rock anatomy is like, it's just a sphere with all these harsh edges and stuff. So you can kind of just make anything look like a rock if you put the right shapes in. And then Dynamesh when you're happy with it, and then rebuild. And then I also like to use the H-polish a lot to define certain shapes. So here, I'll come in and actually start getting harder surfaces, like such. And then I'll use the /3 brush. So that's BS3. And I'll actually lower that intensity. And what I'll do is then I'll start making little lines. Now, let's say you want to make a jagged line that actually, like, you don't want a nice clean line, but you don't want to move your brush all over the place. You can go up to stroke and go to stroke jitter and actually increase this. So then when you draw straight, it's actually going to kind of skip and jitter that about. So And you don't have to do much. Like, you can just do a little bit of that. And then let's increase the... Actually, let's use Sculptress for this part, since somebody asked about it earlier. Come in here, bring in that intensity. And now we could just start using Sculptress to define those, get that detail in, while still keeping that resolution really low. And see, I'm just making small little lines. And that jitter is actually going to give me a little bit of some texture and shape to it without working so hard. There we go. And use Alt to, instead of cut, but to actually add some crease a little bit. Kind of cut in there. There we go. So now I'm just kind of adding some cracks and crevices. Go back to clay buildup and actually kind of define some of those shapes a little bit. So now we're making a rock. I just got an Epax X156. Nice. That thing is hilariously big. That is awesome. Oh, I want that so bad. Yeah. Epax had nice customer support from my experience before. Absolutely. Name string. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can actually translate that question or statement. Let me go to Google Translate real quick. See if I can detect. Let's see what that is. Well done. I don't know how to ZBrush. Well, you come to the right place, name string. Clay buildup. It's a nice Rorschach test for sculpt sometimes. Yeah, stupendous shapes and forms tend to present themselves, and you can just go with it. I use it a lot for hair. Absolutely. Yeah. Practicing your painting has probably helped with your texture shape. Very similar concept. Very true, yeah. Also, too, just like not looking at reference and then not being afraid to just try something and see if it's what you're doing. If you use reference a lot, then you'll start actually building up those concept skills that we were talking about, and that'll just take you to that next level pretty quickly. So, you know, I have a couple rocks on my screen right now that I'm not directly sculpting, but I'm seeing the forms and the shapes in each one of these, and that's helping me kind of create something. And so a lot of times Google's your best friend for that, because you can't know everything. Like, I mean, you could try, but in my opinion, it's almost impossible to know every little thing, you know? So when you're making something, just see what you can do and go from there. Yeah. The Anna farm is here. Woo! Hello, hello, everybody. Smartest, Kamara, Anna, Caroline. Hello, thank you guys for coming in. What is happening? Thank you guys for the raid. That is awesome. Everybody, shout out to Anna Carolina. She's awesome. Smartest as well. If you guys are subscribed to the Pixologic stream, then you probably know them. Talented, super talented artists. Happy birthday. Thank you so much. We heard it was your birthday today. Yes, it is. Thank you. I'm a whopping 38 years young. That's how we roll. Thank you, guys. We're sculpting a rock. Holiday. Hello, hello. Hold on. Thank you, guys. You guys are the best. Yep. Oh, yeah. I love it. Hannah, how was your stream? I couldn't pop in. I wanted to pop in, but I got like super swamped. And I was like, wanted to pop in and see what you were doing. I know you had that 3-hour sculpt I think you were doing. She may or may not be here. That's fair. Oh, happy belated, Odon. Yeah. My stream was great. Nice. That is awesome. Sculpting a rock because it's too hot for him to still. Yeah, I was feeling super overwhelmed and hot today, and so was my Cthulhu, so we sat down. Thank you guys so much. Yeah. All right, heading out, buddy, but it's great to see you. Smartest, is great to see you. Everybody, make sure you guys check out Smartest as well. He's also another Pixo streamer. Awesome dude. You got to check out his work. All right. Okay. All right, we're actually going to break this up a little bit and see what we can do. There we go. Actually, don't mind that base. It's not too bad. So those trees that we sculpted quite a while ago, let's actually see if they work within this foundation. This will set scale 2 for this guy, kind of giving people a sense of what is happening in the world. But that doesn't mean we need to have like 1,800 of them either, so actually going to scale this down. Maybe do something like this. Making this a little bit more of a boulder. Absolutely. Okay. Kind of widen that a bit. Flatten that down just a bit. There we go. Let's see if this works. Make a clay buildup. Bring back some of that material we forced down. There we go. Yeah, let's do that. Stretch that up. There we go. Trees aren't straight. Where's this one? There we go. All right. Scale that down. I didn't mean to stretch it. So we're kind of putting them in a little bit of a desolated area. Okay. Let's take that guy. Yeah. Honestly, a lot happier with this layout. And it'll be a lot easier to print for sure. Okay, so another trick is that if you have multiple objects on the same subtool, but they're all different polygroups, and you have the gizmo out, Control-Shift, tap, and that will actually mask off the other ones and highlight the object that you want. Bloop. Thank you, brother. Thank you. No, not a problem. Yeah, dude. All right. Thank you, guys. All right. Control-Shift, click this guy. Set that up. All right. And just for funsies, I'm going to go ahead and Control drag, which will duplicate the thing I have highlighted. Just give us a little bit of variation. Control drag as well. Maybe this one will be on the floor. Knocked over in the world. Okay. And then for that, we're going to go ahead. I have a shortcut for auto groups. It's always good to have auto groups. There we go. How do you move the gizmo without moving the object? Great question. So what you do, if you want to move the gizmo, hold Alt, and you can move the gizmo anywhere you want, and the object stays the same. If you let go of Alt and start moving it, that pivot point is now set wherever that gizmo is. So if you want to also reset, hold Alt, hit that little like location icon, and that will reset it to the selected object. And it will reset it to the selected object in the middle point. So for example, let's say you have 2 trees and I hold Alt and select that, it's going to put it right between the 2 objects. So because ZBrush thinks that's the shortest distance between that 2. If you have 2 objects that are completely symmetrical, so for example, let's go ahead and send this home. And then I have this on one side and I have like a mirror and weld. And then I send this home. Again, it's going to send it to that middle point, right? But if I have symmetry and then I hit that icon, it will send it to the center of one of the objects on the symmetrical side. So then I can pivot and control this object symmetrically. So hopefully that works for you. Amazing, thank you so much. I'm new to ZBrush, just moving from Maya. Nice. Very, very nice. So yeah, little tricks like that will help you get pretty far. Also too, you see me dragging out here in the middle of space. If you need to move quickly, if you're zoomed all the way in and you need to move around your object, instead of trying to find an empty space on your viewport, just if you're using a tablet and you have your pen button select to right click, you can hover over your tablet and click it, and then you can right click move your object without actually touching the tablet itself. Some people call that the right click army. I do a mix of touching and right clicking, so it just depends on what works for you. When I'm zoomed all the way in, I'm definitely part of the right click club or army, or yeah, I think they call it army. It's just way easier. Yeah, not a problem. All right. Okay. Now, actually, what I'm going to do, I want to kind of fill this up pretty quickly with trees, because I want this to kind of look like a little bit of a forest. And that might work, that might not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge these trees down so that they're all in the same subtool, like such. Then I'm going to go ahead and I have a shortcut for it normally, but if you go to polygroups, I'm going to go ahead and hit auto groups. And then now what I'm going to do is Control-Shift-D, which will duplicate that subtool. I'm going to go ahead and send that home, and I'm actually going to just rotate that around about 180, 190 degrees, and then kind of position that around like such. And we'll move some trees more independent of others, but that's how you could quickly and effectively get some things happening. And then let's click these trees one more time, hit solo, grab this guy, mask that out. Nope, there we go. And we don't want the same tree knocked over, so let's stick that one back up. I mean, it's going to be small, because I'm thinking scale-wise, we'll probably make this about 8 inches or so, maybe like, you know, yeah, that'll be a pretty decent size. So these trees will be small enough to print if we decide to keep them the way they are. Let's finish kind of designing this rock a little bit. Super nice. I'm on my 3rd term of 3D Model and Animations College, and we just got the ZBrush to start. Nice. Amazing program, but the interface is super complex. Yeah, it can be complex a little bit. Something that will help you, Leo Filler, is when you're in doubt, hover over a button of sorts. So like this is my custom UI. Let me save this real quick. So you're probably working with something that is, we go to preferences and restore standard UI. So you're probably having something like this. And so the thing to remember is it doesn't matter what UI you're using. When in doubt, hover over something and hold control. So hover over a button, hover over a slider, hold control, and it will tell you what that does, which makes it so much easier. So, you know, if you need to have a brush function and you're not quite sure what, if you go into auto masking, what does topological do, which I use it a lot, hold it, and I'll let you know that topological will isolate that polygroup. So when you click on that polygroup, it's going to go ahead and actually just recognize that one polygroup instead of moving everything, which could be useful. For example, let's say we have all these trees and I want to move this one tree, and I have the move brush, and I have a big brush because I'm that guy, but it's moving everything. If I go to brush and then I go to automatic and hit topological and I click that one polygroup, now it's moving just that one polygroup. So you can learn a lot in ZBrush by just hovering over something and holding control, and it will tell you exactly what that is. So hopefully that will help you as well. I'm going to restore my custom UI. Hey, Peter's animation. What's happening, dude? All right. Okay. All right, now what we're going to do is it's 7:30. I usually go until 8. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to start kind of getting some major details worked on, because we spent a good chunk of time kind of cleaning everything up. Let's go ahead and isolate that for a second. I'm going to clip this off because I want to put a toe there. Select that. All right. So I'm just kind of selecting an area, inverting that, and then I'm using the clip curve to slice off and kind of flatten that area just a bit. I'm going to put toenails there. Shift D to drop the subdivision down a bit. Do the same thing over here. Grab this. Clip curve. There we go. Select that portion, holding Alt to deselect. And like that. Now we'll put some nails in there. Everyone's here tonight, yeah! Can you tell me in your experience in ZBrush how you focus your mind on sculpting? Oh, that's a great question. And I would say it's actually, for me, the biggest thing that I do is I kind of have a picture in my mind of what I would like it to look like. And so how I focus, I would basically say I usually will put on some really good tunes and I'll just kind of zone in. It's calming for me. So it actually helps me focus. I don't know if that makes sense, but ultimately, like if I know I have to, like here's a good example. I'm at work, I'm sculpting a character for a company, and I'm having a hard time. I will just meditate on some really good music, and I will just focus on getting the task done so I can present something. But it's that key. It's just kind of like taking a deep breath and then just trying something. The other thing is don't be afraid to fail. So a lot of times you'll sit there and you're going to try to get something perfect, right? Because that's what we want to do as artists. It needs to be spot on. No, it doesn't. Actually, that's like, for me, that's like the wrong mindset. I'm trying to create something, and the journey of things not working is helping me figure out what not to do. So then it kind of helps guide me into getting what I want. So I'm not afraid to try a pose or try, to work on like a hand and the anatomy. I won't be afraid to use reference and try something. And if it doesn't work, I'm not afraid to abandon it. So it's like a lot of little things that kind of help me stay locked in. The birthday party! So hopefully that makes sense. Yeah. I've been checking your streams lately, and it's been helping a lot. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. Absolutely. I love doing this. I love teaching ZBrush. I love helping artists learn something new, and in turn, I just love hanging out. So. What is your art zone music to go to? Oh, that is a great question. I will here. I can't play it, but if you guys want to you guys want a sample of what I listen to? Check this out. I can't play this, but I'm going to share a playlist that will give you like an idea of what I listen to. I love music, and I don't care what that is, as long as it's good. So here's my Spotify playlist that I have, and it's continuously growing. And hold on, we ain't done yet. Here is also, I was part of the ZBrush Sculpt Off last year, and I created a 3-hour playlist that actually helps me with my timing. So if you kind of want to know what I do, that's what I do. I listen to everything. It doesn't matter. Like, I have a Steel Panther, I have Eminem, I have Taylor Swift, I have Katy Perry, I have, Beyonce, I have Rihanna, I have all sorts of stuff. I just love music. Random little fact, I used to be a drummer, and I just love music. And I can listen to the same song for hours on end. So yeah. So yeah, music is music. As long as it's good, I'm in it. Kamara's a Steel Panther fan too? That's awesome. Yeah. I just love music, guys. I just love music. There we go. Gonna curl these toes down a little bit. You're not like the other girls, Ian. That's right. I'm not. 625 songs. Yeah, that's a playlist. Yep. And the playlist is called Smile on Your Face, and I'll be honest, guys, every song at one point in time has just made me genuinely happy. I mean, the Top Gun theme, like Top Gun soundtrack is on there. Like, I just love stuff. Dude, drummers are my babe. Every concert I go to, I'm staring at the drummer. Not the lead singer, not the guitarist, the drummer. Yeah, the drummer is the key, dude. Like, you know what I love is I love going to a concert, and I love looking at the drummer and looking at the lead guitarist, because watching that eye contact communication as the song is going through and they're keeping each other on time, it's the best experience, because I remember doing that too. So, have played a few shows, you're just like, oh my gosh, yes. You just know what to look for. You create those little nuance signals. But yet most people won't even recognize that, which is cool. You got to see Steel Panther a few years ago. It was 5 feet from Lexi Fox the whole time. That had to have been epic. If you notice on the playlist that I use for doing sculpt offs, which I practice from time to time, you'll notice that there's like a certain genre, and then all of a sudden it like changes really, really hard to another song. So it'll be Katy Perry, death metal. And it's like, what just happened? That's a key indicator of like, ooh, an hour has passed. And I recommend, if you guys are like trying to do speed sculpts or concept sculpting, to utilize music as like a timing, or even just a movie. Like, I actually think that putting on your favorite movie that you know how long it is and you can pinpoint by listening to, it's a great way as well. So, little things. Just depends on how you work, All right, let's go ahead, and we gotta hit Dynamesh one more time. There we go. There we go. Now I do have that stroke jitter. Let's turn that off. I can build up some more forms and kind of define this rock a little bit. There we go. The lift cloth. I see you got a lot of rap in your playlist. Yes, I do. I love rap. I have Lady Gaga, Parkway Drive in the same place. Nice. When do you know that it's time to turn off Dynamesh and turn it back on? Actually, sometimes I'll forget. So with Dynamesh, if I turn on Sculptress Pro and start working with it, Sometimes I accidentally turn it off and not think about it. Sometimes it's just more intuition, but a lot of times, honestly, I'll forget that I have it. I'll look over and I'm like, oh, whoops, it's it's not Dynamesh. Let me turn that back on. But what I can tell you is I know when to up the resolution based on how it's performing. So the lower the resolution, like let's say 140, so you see how like blobby it looks. So the higher the number, the more resolution and details you'll get out of it. So when I'm trying to use Dynamesh and up the detailing, that's when I'm like, okay, let's go back and check to make sure that that Dynamesh is set where I want. So, but I've accidentally turned it off before a few times and forgot it was on and went to swipe and it didn't do anything. I was like, oh, well, how about that? Usually worried about using Sculptris Pro and destroy the mesh. Is it okay to use it and then Dynamesh it after? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, if you want to, like, let's say I'm using the damn standard and I turn on Sculptris and I have Dynamesh on and I start doing details, right? So let's say we're just kind of sculpting this ledge a little bit. Then I swipe it. You notice that the definition or the detail isn't the greatest. So what I would say is try to avoid Dynameshing so much when you start using Sculptris, or maybe, you know, pick a resolution that you're happy with and then just use Sculptris over it. However, that being said, there is a new button that's added over here. Hover over that for a second. So the slider usually defines the overall. But let me see something real quick. As I'm doing this. Yeah. So if you want to kind of just reuse or rebuild just the shape you're working on a lot, check this button off, and as you Dynamesh, it will work with just that, with that area. I don't use that feature so much. It is a little new, but a lot of times I'll just pick one over the other, and then I will turn it into subdivision and then project those details on. So it's really all into you. I would say maybe use Sculptris more if you are, like, if your computer isn't super powerful and you don't want to have such dense mesh. But yeah, it's Dynamesh is not really good topology. Sculptris Pro isn't really destroying it so much as just isolating where the detail is. So don't be afraid to use it. I use it from time to time, and then I'll subdivide. So hopefully that makes sense. I ramble sometimes too. I see you don't have your points counter on the screen. How do you keep track of that, or is it really relevant? I actually do have it on the screen. It's right up here. I have active points and total points. But I would say, guys, this is kind of distracting, I think, to new artists. I think total points, I think it's good to keep an eye on it. However, I don't really recommend focusing in on this. You know, I have worked professionally and have handed over something that was just a couple million, and then I've also done another project where I've had 73 million polys. At the end of the day, you start learning how to properly use the mesh that you are that you've established at lower geometries, because you want to keep it as low as possible and get the most out of it. So I do keep an eye on it, but I don't hover in on that. I kind of more use an intuitive approach where if the geometry is starting to fight me, then it's time to up it. If it's easily, you know, I'm trying to get big massive forms in, then I know keeping it low is important. So it's kind of about more of like when you're detailing, then let's kick it up. But 9 times out of 10 per subtool, 1 million polys is all you really need to get 80% of what you need done. It's really when you're texturing super detailed stuff, like a T-Rex, for example, that you probably are going to reach 20, 30 million. But it's not necessary. Not in the beginning. If I buy ZBrush for 900, will I have to repay every year after you get updated? No. One-time purchase. It is a lifetime. I paid for ZBrush 5 years ago and haven't dropped another dime since. You were looking, yeah, because it normally is on the right side. I customized it to be over here on the left a little bit. Aha. Okay. So hopefully that was helpful. All right, we're still getting in some of these shapes a little bit. I'm actually liking this kind of rock detail. It's only 127,000 polys, so it's not too bad. I'm not going to get a lot of detail in, but I'm still working on those forms. And with a big old clay brush, I'm going to kind of just rough it up a little bit, because a lot of rocks just have kind of some funky textures over it. There we go. Is this looking how I want it to? That's always the question. Yeah, perfect. Now I'm actually going to up the resolution to like 600. I'm actually going to use... Nope, wrong one. Yeah, going to use just the polish brush. Kind of flatten out some of these areas. Yeah, 1 year update guarantees. It means that they'll do one major update per year. Yeah. ZBrush license is a one-time purchase? Yes, it is. It has been since as long as I know. Yep. And that goes for core as well. If you just buy core, it's the same thing. They just keep upgrading it. One-time purchase. Lifetime access. Truly amazing, which makes ZBrush one of the most affordable, cheaper 3D programs out there. And it's industry standard, which is just amazing. There we go. Start up. And so I'm using that clay buildup, and I'm actually, what we're going to do is we're going to add a really cool kind of like chunky alpha here. I'm going to utilize this alpha 8 with the clay buildup to bring in just a little bit more detail as I build up that clay. Just to bring in some variation. And I like to switch back and forth, something really drastically harsh. And again, to make this look good, we'll have to spend a little bit more time. So just kind of still working on getting the flow of it. There we go. There we go. All right, I definitely like this pose a lot better. Just noticed his elbow needs to be tweaked a little bit. And surprisingly, the mesh isn't too destroyed. Let's see here. I want to know how you make this wing. Is there any brush used? Absolutely, great question. Okay, so if you want to make this this wing kind of like what I did, there's actually a new brush I highly recommend, and it is, if we hold Control and come over, it's actually Mesh Extrude. And how I made this wing was I actually brought in a new subtool. So like I inserted like a 3D cube, and then I hold Control, touch Mesh Extrude, and then what I did was I had the shape in mind of what I wanted, so I actually just started on my surface and created something like this. Come on up, let go, and now it gave me this mesh right here. I went ahead and isolated this area, and then I went ahead and delete hidden, because now I don't need that area anymore, which is, yep, perfect. Okay, and then from there, I went ahead and Z-remeshed it. Gives me something like that. Maybe go a little lower, probably hit like 2. Let's go 2000. Perfect. And then from there, what I did was I actually kind of went on the side a bit, and I hit W for the gizmo, Y for the transpose tool, and actually drew, holding shift, a straight line from one end to the other. Then I hovered over, hovered over the middle, hit Alt. Nope, sorry, wrong way. No, well, that's one way to bend it. Actually, what I did, sorry. So I like kind of hovered over the spot here, masked that area off, softened it, kind of brought it back a little bit. You can also use a deformer if you want, but then I just shaped it around, and now you have this kind of wing shape that you can work with. Then you just place it where you want, and then when you're ready to texture, you could texture. So that's just using the mesh extrude. Great brush. And it's a new brush in the 2021.6 update. Oh, I got it now. That's pretty bad written. One other website then. Oh, okay. Yeah, I could see how that could be misconstrued. Well, that gives me so many ideas. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great brush. The bloom mesh, too, is how I block things out now. Yeah, almost said everyone is going cloud monthly. No, absolutely. I mean, I understand the monthly subscriptions of like, yeah, we need to get something that, you know, oh, if I needed to use like the newest version of Substance for 1 month, sure, I would do that. But ZBrush is a program I knew I was going to own, so I still want the ability to own it, and I'm glad that ZBrush gives me that option. There we go. We need to start cleaning this up a little bit. Not a problem. Yeah. All right. Kind of get that in there a little bit. Maybe build up those fat pads a little bit more, actually. And Control Z. Yep. So right under the eye, you have typically about 3 fat pads that help support your eye. And that's usually the shape right here. So you want to actually get that in a little bit, because you'll have your cheekbone here. You'll have this cheekbone right here that then kind of pairs off and comes here. And you'll see right in this area, right on this plane change, is where the eye will sit. So right underneath this area is usually about 3 fat pads. I forget their names. I'm bad with anatomy names. But right here, on a lot of people, especially when you get older, you'll see this area kind of puff up a little bit. I want to make sure we get that in there. There we go. Yeah, we'll refine that as we get a little bit more into the final details. Should put some D&D dice down here. What's that? What's the brush called again? That brush is called the Mesh Extrude. One of my favorite for sure. Sorry, I missed that question. So, all right. What do we got, guys? Almost 8 o'clock. I know we are coming to an end very shortly, but I'm really excited that this actually is looking a lot better than it was last week. Hopefully you guys don't mind the long projects, but I might continue this on my own personal streams, which I do a couple days a week. I do one stream at 7 a.m. on Wednesdays, and then on Friday, usually around 3:30 p.m., all Pacific Standard Time, I stream. But I might continue him there just because I'm really excited to finish him. But also, next week, I think we have a new ZBrush challenge where we're doing subtractive sculpting. So might be kind of fun. I've been spending the last hour seeing your videos every day on YouTube. You are great, man. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Leo Filler. I really appreciate that. More YouTube videos are to come. And if you guys would like to stop on by and check me out there, please, I would much appreciate it. It would be awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. This pose is way cooler. I absolutely agree. And at the end of the day, that's what really how I wanted to start this video. I was really thinking about it, and I was like, man, I just don't like the pose. If you don't like something about your sculpt, don't be afraid to change it. Like, you know, unless you're doing it for a client and the client is happy, then I say happy client is a good client. So if you're doing something for a client, you may not always like it, but when you're doing personal work, you know, and you don't like it, don't be afraid to try something new. I mean, at the end of the day, it can't hurt. If you try it and it doesn't work out, no big deal. If you know, but if you try it and you're like, oh man, that's way better, yeah, go with that. Don't be afraid. That's the takeaway from today. And I tell myself that all the time too, guys. Like, I really do sit there and say to myself all the time, like, oh God, this isn't looking good. I don't like it. And then I try other things. So, hopefully that's at least encouraging. You can bet on it, bet on it. Thank you so much for the stream. Thank you for answering all the questions. Really appreciate it all. Absolutely. I love doing this, guys. So please bring all your questions. Tell your friends. It's awesome. We got a couple more minutes. And also, too, guys, thanks for the follow. And if you're watching this after it's streamed, so you've made it this far on YouTube, and you're like checking it out, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And that bell, that notification bell. When 3D printing a model of multiple parts, like head, knees and toes, bodies, arms, how do you print each part to scale so your key joints fit into place? I'm super new. Thank you for any help. Absolutely, Daniel. Absolutely. First, what I'm going to say is I'm going to link you to a video that I created, and then I'm going to demonstrate it. I'm going to go, let me pull it up real quick here. So here's my YouTube channel. So if you go to ZBrush Help playlist, I got a lot of videos, and the main one I'm talking about, come on down, is this how to scale and measure in ZBrush. But I will go ahead and demonstrate that for you guys right now, because I know it can get a little confusing. So if you want to make sure that everything is solid, so let's save this real quick. Okay, let's go ahead and save. All right, I'm actually going to save this as a project too, because sometimes I like to go back and do a time lapse. So I'm going to save the undo history. It's going to be a big file, but that's okay. All right, I'll just save everything that I did. So to make sure everything fits, I recommend scaling by using a cube or a subtool that you can easily control the scale of it. So let's say I'm completely done with this model, and I want to get, and I have all the pieces, you know, like I have the wings and stuff like that, because that's the thing, you can cut your model up into separate pieces and never really utilize scale. Just keep in mind of how your wall thickness is. But what I recommend before you start cutting is setting scale, then chopping up, so that you can ensure that it's accurate as possible, which is, so what I would recommend is that you set scale in ZBrush by going to insert and hitting a cube. And doesn't matter if your stuff's in folder or not, just put that at the bottom and call this 1 inch, right? We're going to make this a 1 inch cube. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm now going to scale this cube down, because let's say I want this to be about 6 to 8 inches, right? So let's call it 6 inches just to make it easy. So I'm going to scale this cube down a little bit. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom on in, put this down at the bottom. I'm now going to hit this pen, this sticky note or sticky mode. And then what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to rely on ZBrush's repeat method to get all the cubes that I need. and have a fairly accurate measurement. So I'm going to go ahead and hold Control. I'm going to drag, and I'm going to stack this right on top of this other cube. I'm going to let go. Now notice that it snapped my gizmo back to the first cube. What we're going to do next is now I'm going to, without moving anything, I'm going to hit 1 on the keyboard, and that's going to stack another cube on top. And I'm going to do this till I have 6. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, hit F. That's 6. I'm going to go ahead and clear that mask, undo that sticky note, and then I'm going to go ahead and position this, scale it down till I get roughly the height I want. So call it right about there. Okay, something like that. Now I'm going to go to polygroups on the right hand side here, and I'm going to hit auto groups. I'm going to select one cube by using the select rec, and I'm going to delete hidden, which can be found under geometry and modified topology, and delete hidden. Now I know that it's 6 cubes tall. Okay, from here, this is where we're going to start scaling things. So I'm going to use Z plugin, and let's go ahead and actually click this little icon here to pin it on the left. And I'm going to go to Scale Master. Now, what I'm going to do first before anything else is you notice here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, that the sliders are automatically set to 1, and it has millimeter. This is ZBrush's default scale setting. It's always set to 1. That's just how it is. From here, we're going to use this cube because it's an even subtool that all 6 walls are the same, so we can determine simply, you know, X, Y, and Z axis. I'm going to go ahead and hit Set Scene Scale. It's going to bring up some options. The options are going to bring up are millimeter, centimeter, inches, and feet. If you're working in 3D printing, hit millimeter. It's going to make your life so much easier because 99% of the time, the 3D print software is going to be for millimeters or the metric system. So go ahead and click millimeters. And now you'll notice that the slider over here under Scale Master has now set to what it recognized. Now what we need to do is actually reestablish this number to what we want it to be. So if we want it to be 1 inch, then we need to convert 1 inch into millimeters, which is 25.4 millimeters equals 1 inch. So I'm just going to click one of these boxes and type in 25.4. And that's going to be, you just need to do it to one axis, which is, we'll just do X. And now we're going to hit Resize Subtool. That's going to now take everything, and it's going to go ahead and take all the subtools in the scene and scale them up. This might take a second, so just let it do its thing. It'll let you know when it's done. Which, yep, that's done. Perfect. So I'm going to hit F on the keyboard, and now I'm going to go back to Scale Master and hit Set Scene Scale one more time. And now we'll notice that right up here at the top under millimeters, which is what we picked the first time, it says 25.4 millimeters, which is perfect. That's what you want. Now I recommend using your new scale scene as a measurement system to cut your keys and all that stuff, because you can do it accurately. And you can even measure wall thickness now. For example, if I need to know how thick this wall on this tree is, I'm going to come over here. And I need to know if this is printable. Most things print, even in resin, at about 0.0. So the thinnest I've ever printed anything, you want it about like 0.1 millimeters. That's like a good number. 0.2 millimeters if you're printing an FDM, because that's the typical nozzle size or the filament size or filament layer you'll be printing in. But we can see how thick this is by hitting W on the keyboard, Alt tapping so that our gizmo is here, and then we can hit Y to bring up the transpose tool. Let's just solo this out so we can isolate. Now I need to know if this will be printable. So I'm gonna drag and hold Shift, go across, and that wall thickness, if we look at the very top, says it's 0.54 millimeters. So this is a way that you can accurately measure in ZBrush. So then when you cut your key, you can now measure that wall thickness. And if it's really like, if it's like 0.01 or 0.02, that's too thin. So just keep the number of like 0.1 to 0.2 millimeter. That's a good thickness for a wall. And now you can measure that and get your accurate cuts. And you can do that for everything. So like, let's take this wing, for example. Is this wing too thin? Because I bet you it is. Probably have to thicken this up. So let's look at this edge point right. Yeah, it's really thin. Let's see here. W, we're going to tap right here. Going to hold Y. Going to kind of drag it from one side to another. It's that's a little hard to measure right there. Right there. 0.4. 0.4, not too bad. So it's a way you can measure and get stuff out. Likes a dick. Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question. Scale, I know, is and can be a little confusing in ZBrush, but hopefully that method helps you out. And again, if you have any questions, refer back to that YouTube video I shared. I go over it in pretty good detail. And also, too, you can come back and watch it on the stream because usually they save the VODs over on YouTube. You are welcome, Daniel. Not a problem. Well, with that, guys, we're going to wrap it up for the night. Does anybody have any final questions before I go? And what I would recommend, too, by the way, is save this cube out. Here's a pro tip if you're working with clients and you're going to have them 3D print stuff. Save this cube that you use to scale your models in, because you can use this cube as a controller so that when you bring in your stuff into your slicer and you export your tools, export this cube first by going up to the 3D print hub. You can update the size ratios there, say millimeters, and when you export out this STL, you can bring that cube into your slicer, and if it's 1 inch, then the rest of your model's fine. We'll keep it friendly here. Lobster. Have you tried sculpting with Blender? Yeah. If you want to know my opinion, check out my personal streams. I'll let you know there. Nice. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. All right, great. Not a problem, guys. Again, thank you guys so much for everything. Thanks so much, Ian. Awesome stream. Happy birthday. Enjoy the rest of your evening. You guys, too. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. You've all just been so amazing. And I love hanging out with you guys. And I love teaching. So don't forget, guys, if you're new, please subscribe. Because obviously there are other artists on here. And they're all really, really talented and very supportive. So go check them out as well. Because they also are different parts of the industry. So if you're into like VR, or you're into games, or you're into film, or even just like props and stuff, lots of artists on here that do the same thing. So guys, thank you so much. And also too, if you're watching this after the stream and you made it this far and you got questions, comment in the comment section down below and we will get to them as soon as possible. If not me, then somebody from Pixologic. So, all right, guys, thank you so much. Nice work. Thank you. Thank you. We'll continue this. We'll continue this soon. It's looking really good. I'm happy. Thank you. Happy birthday. All right, guys. Take it easy, and I'll catch you all next time. Bye, 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 bye. Bye.